You're listening to the Churchosity Podcast, where we talk about the Gen X take on church culture. What it is, what it shall be, what it was. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Churchosity Podcast. My name is Heath Brady, and I am your host.
My name is Andrea Brady, and I'm your co-host.
We're just a couple of Gen Xers giving our perspective on church culture. And this podcast is dedicated to the Gen X Christians.
You know, the ones who just want to keep it simple.
The ones who just want to live quiet, peaceable lives.
We represent the generation of Christians who sometimes look at what other people are doing and thinks, whatever. But you know, as it says in 1 Timothy 1:5,
the goal of our instruction is love, from a pure heart, and from a good conscience, and from a sincere faith. So what's going on, Andy? How you doing?
I always say the same thing. Nothing. Just like when I'd come home from school every day.
Right. How was school today?
Fine.
What'd you learn?
Nothing.
Stuff. What'd you think of my little horrible Walter Cronkite impression there at the top of the app?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was my way of saying, nothing.
Nuttin'. I remember I used to say nuttin'.
Nuttin'.
What's going on, nuttin'?
Nuttin'.
And my mom would get so mad at me.
Yeah. Nuttin', honey.
Enunciate.
Enunciate.
Nuttin' is not in the dictionary.
Nuttin' ain't in the dictionary.
Nuttin'. Yeah, every day it was the same. I'd come home. What'd you learn? Nuttin'. How you doing? I'm all right. Anything new? No.
And then you go hibernate in your room.
Exactly.
That was if your parents were home when you got home.
Right. Well, usually that was like after practice if I were, in a sport or something.
Oh, yeah.
They'd be home by then.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Have things changed that much?
Now that we're talking about it, our kids have done the same exact thing to us.
Right.
Oh my gosh, what an epiphany.
Yeah. What's new? Nothing. What'd you learn? Nothing.
How was school? Boring. Do you like your classes? Yeah,
No.
They're fine.
No.
No.
Most of the time they're like, no, I don't really like my classes.
How's life been?
It's been good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Short one-word answers still?
Yeah, still one word.
How's life been? Good. Anything new? Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Moving right along.
Like all this small talk. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, especially because of what I do for a living, the holidays were nuts. Like Christmas and New Year's were just nuts.
Yeah, very busy.
In the church, that is a busy time of year.
It really is, yeah.
And the last couple of weeks have not really slowed down, I would say, but it's been just kind of...
Has it slowed down?
Slown down.
That's a good word. We need to... Let's coin that phrase. It's slowed down.
Life has not slowed down.
Okay.
You can tell which side of Wallingford I grew up on.
Sorry. Well, like I said, my mother with her dictionary.
Yeah, no doubt.
Slowed.
Your mom does that to me still to
She
this
still
day.
does that.
That is so funny. But as I was saying,
yes,
work hasn't necessarily slowed down. But it's definitely not as nuts as it was just a few weeks ago. So it's been nice to start the new year and the last few weeks doing the ministry and doing new stuff. It's been cool.
Yeah, working with the kids.
Yeah, the kids and the youth and recruiting volunteers and stuff. It's been cool.
Yeah.
It's been good times. Mm-hmm. Andy, talking about how our days go and how work goes and stuff like that, like we actually are having a conversation and authentically discussing how good or bad our days have gone and our work has gone and the week has gone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's funny how now as an adult, looking back, we didn't have those kind of conversations with our parents.
Yeah. I mean, I kept it simple. Unless there was something really, really wrong.
Yeah, but did you ever really tell your parents there was something really, really wrong?
Only if it was medical.
Well,
Take me to the hospital.
right. But other than that, you brought up a really good point that nothing's really changed. That the kids do to us what we did to our parents.
Yeah.
Very short conversations.
I mean, I can think of 2 times when I actually, as a teenager, went to my father and asked him for advice.
Wow.
I know. He must have felt like $1 million because I'm still waiting for that day. It would be so awesome if my kid just came up to me and was like, Mom, I need your advice. I would think I might faint.
Well, the oldest does that. Our oldest does that from time to time.
That's true. I meant as a teenager.
Oh, as a teenager.
I can't envision that. I mean, yeah, as you get older, I think definitely in your 20s and for sure by your 30s, you're going to your parents and asking them for advice.
Or at least you should.
Yeah.
Because adulting stuff.
Things like, Mom, what's the difference between comprehensive insurance and liability only? And if you don't know that, you better go Google it.
Or ask your parents.
Yeah, ask your parents right now.
Oh, that's funny.
Mom, I'm not very good at filling out my taxes. Could you do it for me? That's my lame attempt at a Dana Carvey impression.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at talking with landlords.
Yeah, that was it.
Could you do it for me?
Yeah. We love Dana Carvey.
Yep.
He's a good comedian.
He's a boomer.
He is a boomer.
That was a parent late in life, so it's almost like he's a Gen X parent.
He's a boomer who's a Gen X at heart, kind of.
Yeah.
Because he had many popular characters in the 80s.
That's very true.
So.
What was your favorite one of Dana Carvey's characters from the old SNL days?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh. I mean, there's so many to think of. I mean, everybody remembers Garth from Wayne's World.
Well, yeah, I think that was probably it.
Mine was a church lady.
It's like iconic.
Church lady.
No. It was so offensive.
Nah.
How could you?
It's hilarious.
Yeah,
Probably couldn't do that character today, though.
Satan.
Yeah.
So, honey, what's on your mind tonight? You have anything that's weighing on you?
Weighing on me. I always have things that are weighing on me.
He's like Atlas with the world on his shoulders.
Oh, gosh. Totally. There are some days where it feels like that. No, I wouldn't say that there's anything that's like weighing on me, but especially because I work in youth ministry. Mm-hmm. And I've parented 5 youths.
Yeah.
There's this thing, this like trend that I've noticed. And I don't know if you've picked up on it. So if you haven't, then that'll just confirm for myself and our audience that I am in fact weird. But why is everybody in a funk all the time?
Everybody or
like
kids these days?
The kids these days, the Gen Z, like it seems like there's always something the matter.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
So I'm not crazy.
No. I mean, I can kind of confirm that from the talks that I've had with our youngest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean...
But the thing is, if you ask them what's wrong, they'll say nothing.
Nothing.
But they really don't know what's the matter.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part about it. Like, I had a conversation with a teenager not too long ago. And they were telling me how if you ask your average teenager today how they're doing,
yeah,
they'll tell you either fine or they'll actually tell you that life kind of sucks. Mm-hmm. Like something is the matter. Mm-hmm. But then when you ask them, well, what's up? Tell me what's going on. They will tell you, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just know that I'm not okay.
Yeah.
It is the weirdest thing. And a lot of people that I have had conversations about this with have tried to blame it on COVID. They've tried to say, well, we locked our kids up for 18 months and yada, yada, yada. But this was a problem before COVID.
Yeah. I think it's worse since COVID.
Well, I don't think that quarantine and masking and covering half your face and not interacting with people has certainly accelerated the all things are the matter all of the time movement.
Right.
But I mean, I remember before COVID, pre-COVID, noticing this, like with our kids and being like, is everything all right?
Yeah.
Like it was just weird how teenagers were just in a funk all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think it could some of it is a teenage thing. I mean, back when we were teenagers, we all had our thing. We all had a problem. We all had an issue. I mean, just look at Breakfast Club.
Oh.
It took detention on a Saturday for them to all figure out what their problems were.
Or at least figure out how to communicate about them.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Now, this is a really interesting point. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad that you went there with that movie. In case you're wondering, ladies and gentlemen, we are referring to the infamous John Hughes film, The Breakfast Club. Each one of those characters, I mean, everybody likes to, and I like talking about that movie from this angle as well, but everybody typically talks about The Breakfast Club as these are several different types of people.
Yeah.
Several different people groups, several different cliques that existed in the public high school world in the 80s.
Yeah.
And all of that is very true. But what's interesting, and you alluded to that, is that it took all of these different kids from different walks of life and different backgrounds to hang out together on a Saturday in the library to discover that all of them actually had one thing in common. And what was that?
Well, they're all the same age. They all are a little bit insecure about something, and they all have their issues.
Yeah, they all had issues.
Right.
But their issues were actually issues.
Mm-hmm. True.
Like they were actual issues. Mm-hmm. So you had Judd Nelson's character, which was Bender.
Oh, yeah, Bender.
Who is my favorite character in the show. And he came from a broken home, and his dad was a drinker and smacked him around.
Yeah.
You had Emilio Estevez's character, who was the wrestler.
Right.
And his dad was constantly pressuring him. And he got into trouble at school and got sent to Saturday school. And the only thing that his father was concerned about was how Saturday school might not get him some looks from the colleges now.
Oh, man.
And then you had Molly Ringwald's character,
Claire,
who was the preppy popular girl, who was extremely insecure.
Well, I think her issue was that she had to go along with the crowd even when she didn't want to. Because she felt the pressure to stay popular and to be popular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you had Ali Sheedy's character, who was like the neurotic kleptomaniac pathological liar.
Right.
And then you had Anthony Michael Hall's character,
who was the nerd.
He was the nerd,
Yeah.
And he got in trouble and was sent to Saturday school because as a result of him constantly being picked on, he brought a gun to school.
Oh, my gosh.
So, like, each one of these characters legit had something in their lives that really was authentically the matter. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about that, do you think that, I mean, this is back in the 80s.
Right.
You know, we had stuff, we had insecurities. I know that I did, especially because most of us were latchkey kids.
Yeah.
How in the world were we supposed to figure out life when our parents were never around?
Right.
You know? And then, of course, the last people that we wanted to talk about our problems with was our parents.
Yeah.
We talked about them with each other.
True.
But it would have taken something like a Saturday school, even with people that we knew.
Yeah.
You know, because like I had people that I palled around with, but I didn't talk about my life with them.
No, I didn't really open up with anybody about my problems. I think part of our generation, what we did was we stuffed it and we self-medicated. And we just got over it somehow.
somehow, I mean, we got into music, we got into movies, we got into sports, we got into clothes, we got into, I mean, you name it. You know what's funny? It's really not too much different today.
Well, and I think, we've talked about this on previous episodes that because maybe we might have been neglected a little bit as teenagers and as children, we want to do everything that we can for our kids these days, and to have them come home and have issues, we're kind of like beside ourselves, like, because we can't comprehend what on earth is really the matter. You've got the world in your, the world is your oyster. It's right there. Everything, there's nothing wrong. You've got everything you could possibly want. We give them everything that they could possibly want.
Sometimes feels like that.
Yeah. So what is the matter?
Well, I have a theory.
Do you? That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's just a theory. And again, I am not a psychologist, but I played one on television. No, just kidding. No, but all the years that I've been in ministry and working with youth and with children and kind of following these trends, I mean, this is my second real go around at working with youth, and a whole generation has passed in between my runs as a youth director.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was first a youth director, I was directing kids who are now millennials.
Right.
Now I'm a youth director who's directing kids who are Gen Z. And in the midst of all of that, I've parented both millennials and Gen Zs. And it seems like, because of everything that we like to talk about as far as like what things were like when we were kids and how that translated into our parenting style as a generation, and kind of trying to make sure that our kids had everything that they could possibly dream of and make the world their oyster.
Yeah.
I hate talking about this movie franchise, but I think that it speaks to my theory.
What?
Think about the underlying message of the Twilight movies.
Oh, geez. You went there.
Just think about this. Okay. A 15-year-old girl meets
gross.
the quote boy of her dreams. Falls in love. And decides that she's going to forever attach herself to this boy by becoming a vampire just like him.
Right.
Now, aside from how corny that is, think about that message. Just think about that for a second. Go back in time and pretend with me, play along, that we're 15 years old. Would you make a lifelong commitment to a boy or a girl at the age of 15?
I think when you are a 15-year-old, even though you're completely immature and there's a lot of growing up to do, you throw yourself into a relationship. It's pretty I can see that.
Yeah, but I'm not just saying like putting yourself into a relationship. I'm like talking about like making a lifelong decision.
Right.
At 15 years old.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And as I sit here and listen to what we're talking about here, not just the Twilight movies, but think about like the programming and the messages in the programming that we have sent Gen Z. Like it's almost like we are forcing our kids to grow up before they're ready. It's what it feels like. We're granting our kids permission to make real hard life choices that have lifelong consequences at such early ages in life. I was talking with somebody who works with kids recently, and they suggested the possibility that what's actually the matter with Gen Z kids, actually the matter, is that they're afraid of disappointing us because we've given them everything.
Yeah.
They don't want to let us down. And I have to tell you that as a former jock, meaning that I played sports like my whole life, with a stepdad that only paid attention to me when I was on the football field.
Yeah.
that resonates with me.
I know. So that must have come from a Gen X perspective.
Completely.
Because I don't think that Gen Z cares about that.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh. Well, then
we're the ones who cared about pleasing our parents and not disappointing them. I really don't think Gen Z cares about that at all. I think they care about disappointing themselves and setting themselves up for failure.
Ooh.
I've been thinking that they're more like, I don't want to be 25 or 30 and have regrets about the life choices I've made up till then, if they even think that far ahead. I just don't see it. I don't think that they care that much.
Well, I know that young people don't like upsetting their parents.
Yeah, because there's consequences.
No, but like seriously, like if a young person does something that hurts their parents' feelings,
yeah,
they don't like that.
Well, yeah.
They don't like their parents' feelings getting hurt.
Right.
You know. And I think that that's something different from our generation, because I didn't and I'm speaking for me personally. Like when I made decisions when I was a teenager, it didn't really have to do with whether or not it was going to hurt my parents' feelings. It had to do with whether or not I could survive the day.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I can't even envision hurting my parents' feelings because I never could know what they're feeling. Well, and they never shared that with me.
Well, and to be fair, you and I talk about this all the time, that we may in fact be the last generation that was raised to respect our elders.
True.
So like part of the reason why I never really worried about upsetting my parents was because I was more concerned about being respectful to my parents.
Yeah.
You know, opening doors for my grandmother, helping my mom out of the car, you know, that kind of stuff, and not sassing my parents.
No.
You know, there's a lot of sass in the world these days.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of sass.
We got a lot of sassy pants around today. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. Those are just conversations that I have because I work in the ministry, and you know, I like to ask people, you know, what's your take? What do you think? What do you see? What do you hear? And you know, that's unfortunately the consequence of not, you know, doing the research, you know, to find out. In fact, my master's degree is not in psychology,
right?
But I work in ministry.
Well, I have heard that there's been studies done that show a correlation between screen time and depression.
Yes, that is a great point.
So, I mean, I can't quote what study that is, but we've all known this for years, that our kids, I mean, think about it. When our kids were little, we were told no more than 1 hour of screen time.
I remember that. I remember when they were
deal.
little, and like, especially like around the Nintendo 64 era when Mario Kart was out. And I remember like child psychologists warning parents about not allowing their children more than an hour a day of staring at a screen because it hindered their development.
Yeah, exactly. So I was really careful. I mean, I know my kids liked watching PBS Kids, so I would monitor, okay, are we going to watch Clifford today? Or are we going to watch Arthur? Or, you know, and then, you know, I was very careful about not going over that because I wanted to make sure I was being responsible as a parent.
Right.
But then the iPod Touch.
And then it was over.
I mean, you know, kids were getting the iPod Touches. And it was becoming a thing. And then they started getting smartphones. And then it was kind of, you know, a free-for-all.
And what's interesting is that all of those companies that manufacture all of the smart technology with screens, they all come with a setting on there for parental control of limiting screen time.
True.
And like nobody does that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a few of you out there do it. But
I personally know of 2 parents that do that with their kids. And those are some of the most angry, bitter children.
I remember buying our youngest 2 kids a Nook. so that they could read books on their
What is a
screen
Nook?
on a tablet. It's like a little iPad.
It's
type
like a
thing.
Kindle.
Yeah, I'm sure people know what a Nook is. You can still get them, can't you?
I don't know because I haven't heard anyone say that for years.
A Nook.
I hear people talk about Kindle Fire still, but I don't hear anyone talking about
that's the
Nook.
Amazon one. This was the Barnes and Noble one.
Oh, that's right. I remember getting those. Okay.
Yes. So we had a couple of Nooks, and they loved their Nook. And I didn't feel as guilty about letting them have screen time because it was
All they did was read on it, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of really lame games on there too.
Lame games.
And there was actually a way for them to go on the internet if they could figure it out, which they eventually did.
Yeah.
But it was so slow. I'm just thinking, we've let our teenagers pretty much have unlimited screen time. And they have all of their books and stuff. I mean, all of it's digital. Everything as a high schooler is digital. They work in the cloud. They do all their homework on a laptop. They need a laptop to do their work. And, they have their smartphones. And because of COVID, what have we done? Out of necessity, they've had to go online, spending hours and hours and hours and hours a day online, all by themselves in their room, doing work or looking at a screen or, logging in and pretending like they're there.
Yeah,
they're checked out.
They've got their laptops open and they're staring at their smartphones and glancing at their laptops for hours and hours and hours. Yeah, we locked our kids up basically for 18 months, told them that they couldn't go anywhere. Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
I don't really envy that.
Nope. I had a conversation not too long ago with a college professor who is the dean of the counseling department at this university. Mm-hmm. And he's got a pair of doctorates, and one of them just happens to be in psychology.
Okay.
And I know the guy pretty well. I wouldn't say we're friends, but I know him pretty well. And so I was able to get him to open up to me and answer some questions. I brought this up. And he said to me that the studies have shown, the numbers and data are out there, that the studies show the direct correlation between the amount of time that we stare at a screen and how it affects us psychologically. Mm-hmm. That it feeds into depression and anger and seclusion, and that it is obvious that especially with our youngest, with Gen Z, there's obviously babies after them, but we're talking about Gen Z and how there's always seems to be something the matter and everyone is in a funk, but they don't know what is the matter. Mm-hmm. It's obvious to me that there is a direct correlation between those two things. Yeah. That the amount of time, think about it. If you're between the ages 10 and 25, let's say, mm-hmm. you have access to your entire life on a screen. And on top of that, you also have access to all forms of entertainment on that same screen that you carry around in your pocket. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just talking about, Facebook. I'm talking about Instagram. I'm talking about Snapchat. I'm talking about TikTok. I'm talking about everything, and now, especially if you're a gamer, there's Discord, which is another way to stare at your screen all day and text back and forth with people about stuff. So pretty much you are what you eat. Yeah. There's a problem with your eyes staring at a screen for 8 hours a day or more. I'm sure it's not the best thing for your eyes. But it's also about what you're looking at and feeding your mind with. So basically garbage in. Yeah, garbage in. Garbage out. Yeah. It's not like they're sitting there reading their Bibles on their laptops for 8 hours a day. Although that would be really nice. Would we scold our children if we found out that they were staring at their computer screens 8 hours a day or staring at their smartphones for 8 hours a day and they were reading the Word of God? Yeah.
Honey, it's time to turn off your laptop. You've gone over your allotted time. Oh, but Mom, I'm reading the Bible. That would be so awesome.
Then I would definitely think that I had taken the blue pill.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
You've been living in a dream world.
Yeah. But, you know.
But the reality is,
how much time are they spending in the Word?
you know, maybe we should do an episode in the future about the direct correlation between how much time we spend in the Word actively and the chaos of our life.
Yeah. I mean, we're supposed to be continuously being fed.
Right.
What's that verse?
That's in Colossians chapter 3, I believe it is. To let the words of Christ richly dwell within you. Mm-hmm. And the correlating verse is in Ephesians chapter 5. To be filled with the Spirit. Mm-hmm. You know, that we allow the words of Christ to richly dwell within us and to continuously be being filled with the Holy Spirit.
By reading.
Mm-hmm. The Word of God.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not a psychologist, but it doesn't seem like there's really anything the matter.
No.
You know, I just think about, like, one of our favorite shows of all time.
Yeah.
Is Lost.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I mean, forget about whether or not the ending of the show sucked.
I was okay with it.
Well, I had to watch it 3 different times to finally get to the point where I was okay with how it ended.
Yeah, I think they rushed it.
Yeah, there was at least another 1 or 2 seasons of that show left, for sure.
The problem with Lost in general is that it's not one of those shows that you can just start watching in the middle of the
series.
Yeah, of the series, because you really don't know what's going on and nothing makes sense.
Because if you try watching the show in the middle, you'll get lost.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember binging the first season because I wasn't interested.
Right.
And a buddy of mine told me about the show, and I was like, I don't want to watch another one of these. Oh, I'm stranded on a deserted island with all these strangers, kind of a thing. Like, for me, back when the show Lost came out, I had already done like 3 seasons of Survivor. Like, I was done with that whole concept, right?
Yeah.
And so my buddy, he was like, dude, I'm telling you, it's the most unique show. You will love it.
It was a unique show, and everyone's trying to replicate it now.
There are so many shows that, yeah, I mean, Lost was kind of the catalyst for the blueprint for a lot of programming on television. The way that all of the characters on the show are somehow connected to each other. They all have a backstory that connects them to each other. On the show, they go backwards and forwards in time to show like what happened to this person back then and then what happened to them in the future. This was the first show that really ever did something like that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I don't really want to spoil the show too much for anybody.
Spoil it. It's been out forever.
Yeah, that's true. If you haven't watched it by now, you're probably not going to.
And if you haven't watched it by now, you'll be totally lost in the conversation.
Correct. You've got all of these characters that were on an airplane, and the airplane's like splits in half, and all of them crash land on an island. Some of them land on one side of the island, some of them land on the other side of the island.
Yeah.
And they're on the island, they're stuck on the island for a total of 108 days. But here's the thing. Every single one of those characters is somehow connected to each other from their past. And their backstories show you that they all had something authentically wrong in their lives.
And they were working it out.
On the island.
So it was like a purgatory.
Well, and I guessed from the pilot episode, the island is a snow globe.
Okay.
It's totally purgatory.
Right.
And it turns out that I was right. But, these people, I mean, obviously it's Hollywood and it's fictional and everything, but these people had like real authentic issues in their lives.
Right.
That were from their childhood or their teenage years or young adulthood or whatever. They all had something that was authentically the matter.
That was one of the quotes in the show.
Exactly.
Hurley, one of my favorite characters, he liked this girl who thought she was crazy, and she liked him too, but she was like, but I'm kind of crazy, and he's like, well, we all got something.
Yeah. I still, to this day, you put that episode on and that scene comes on the television, I will start crying.
Right.
He's like, Hurley, but I'm crazy. Yeah. But we all got something, right?
What he really meant was, yeah, but you're a hot chick.
And I'm in love with you.
Yes.
So, I just, I think about how, it was Hollywood and it was fictional and all of these characters, they're not real.
Right.
But yet, through 6 seasons of television, this show like deep dove into these people's issues, right? And I just, I think about the young generation today walking around like in a fog, in a funk, like all of the time. And nothing's really the matter.
Yeah.
But yet everybody has something the matter. And it's almost as if everyone has to, like, this is the new peer pressure. Like, you have to be mad and you have to be depressed and something's got to constantly be the matter.
It's cool to be angsty.
Yeah, it's cool to be angsty. You got that right. And I just wish that it would stop being cool.
What was it cool to be when we were teenagers?
When we were teenagers,
rebellious.
It was cool to be rebellious.
Yeah.
That's why Bender's the best character on Breakfast
Yeah,
Club.
he is. He's the best.
Yeah. Just picture that infamous scene at the end of the movie where he's walking across the football field and the Simple Minds song comes on. Don't you forget about me. And what does he do? He pumps his fist to the sky.
Right.
Like, I am a rebel and I won the day.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what message John Hughes was trying to get across. I don't know if it was we're all different, but we all got something. I don't know if it was his poor attempt at trying to display how to break down barriers between people groups. I don't know what his message was in that movie.
I think that's part of it. I think it was we're all different, but we are all the same and we can all connect on some level.
Yeah, and I think that that's totally true.
Yeah, we can all be friends even if we're different.
Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day, Scripture tells us to be anxious for nothing, but to commit all things to prayer.
Yeah.
Scripture tells us to seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and then all of these things will be added unto us. Like,
and what's the greatest commandment?
To love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, and with all of your strength.
And love your neighbor as yourself.
That's the second greatest commandment.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we can't really, truly, deeply love our neighbor as ourselves. We can't truly have relationships with people. We can't truly have nothing be the matter. We can't come out of this funk until we have first loved the Lord our God with all that is within us. I know that it sounds cliche, but Jesus really is the answer to it all. It never ceases to amaze me how correct the book of Ecclesiastes is. That there's nothing new under the sun. That what happened before will happen again. It's just with every single generation, there is always this cycle within every single one of us of where we deny God, we deny His lordship, we chase after other gods, we chase after other stuff, until the point, hopefully, where we come to the end of all of that and go, okay, none of this is working and none of this is bringing me joy. Because let's be honest, the reason why anyone, especially Gen Z, is in a funk is because of all of the other stuff that they're chasing after to bring them joy and contentment and peace in their lives. And yet the very fact that there's always something to matter should prove that none of that's actually bringing them joy. How can it be joyful to be empty of all joy? all of the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But just like with our generation, our parents' generation, the generation before that, you go all the way back to the dawn of man and woman, all the way back to the garden. We know that there has to be something more than what is right in front of us. And instead of seeking God, seeking his kingdom, we chase after what is appealing to us, like right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Since the garden, we've been tempted with the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the boastful pride of life. The next generation's version of all of that is that it is cool and acceptable to have something always be the matter. You can't just have a happy, normal life.
Mm-hmm.
And since everybody does in fact got something,
Yeah.
I think that it's safe to say that in an effort to keep it simple, we take that something, whatever it is, and even the possibility that we don't know what it is, we're just in a funk,
Mm-hmm.
and we give that to Jesus.
Absolutely.
Our generation just likes it plain and simple.
We do.
Our generation just is like, cut it to me straight. Like, give it to me straight. Tell me what is necessary so that I know what I need to do, and I'll get it done.
Right.
And rather than just continuously complicating the issue and, you know, trying to come up with this research and this numbers and this data and whatever, let's bring it back to the basics. Let's bring it back to what is simple.
Mm-hmm.
And what is in fact simple? You mention this all the time.
What?
The two greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength.
And love your neighbor as yourself.
Exactly. And so rather than running to your neighbors to show them how miserable you are, find ways to love them. And the number one way that you can love your neighbor is to put the Lord first in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're Gen Z and you're listening right now, and your head is in a fog, and you are in a funk, and you can't figure out what's the matter, or maybe you're a parent who can't figure out how to minister or serve your child who is always in a funk. Bring it back to the basics.
Yeah.
Start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Get in the Word, spend time with Jesus, let the words of Christ richly dwell within you, and at the end of the day, that will empower you to love others as yourself and ultimately to love your children. Demonstrate that love in their lives. Even on those days when you want to rip your friggin' hair out because you're so frustrated because nobody knows what's the matter. Remember the one constant. Remember on Lost, that one character, David Faraday?
Oh, yes.
Always talked about constant, having a constant.
Yes.
The one constant that we all can have is Jesus.
And that's all we have to say about that.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Churchosity Podcast, the show where we try to give you the Gen X take on church culture. And thank you once again, as always, to my wonderful and amazing co-host.
Aw, you're welcome. Be sure to follow us on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is @ChurchosityPod. Drop us a message and give us your feedback. We'd really love to hear from you.
And if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave us a rating. 5 stars are always appreciated, but not required. And also give us some feedback on there. Leaving a rating and giving feedback not only helps to support the podcast, it also promotes it and helps make it easier for others to find the podcast. But also, keep telling your friends to tell their friends what we're doing here.
Yes, tell a friend and let them be a part of the conversation too.
But always remember that the goal of our instruction is love.
From a pure heart
And from a good conscience.
and a sincere faith.
So we thank you once again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Churchosity Podcast. Peace.